In the name of the Lord of the feast. Amen. Please be seated. It's a nice pretty day outside, so let's get busy. If I said to you, theodicy, Theodicy, do you know what that means? No. Does anybody know what that means?
Say it again.
Theodicy. So it's placing God on trial. Placing God on trial, or at least question. Let's just rephrase it slightly and say re-questioning, or even questioning the first time, the justice of God. How many of you have a question about the justice of God when you hear this scripture being read? You don't need to raise your hand. God knows already. Okay, that's a good start. Now, let's go to parables. What are parables? They're stories, okay? A lot of times they're stories. There are, I don't know, around 38 or so parables in Scripture. What are some of the characteristics of parables?
They're alliterations.
They are alliterations. They are literature. Alliterations are all animals are alive and adorable. That's an alliteration with all the A's following. But I get what you mean. They're comparisons oftentimes. They're comparisons. And many, you all remember this. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you remember. That a lot of these parables begin with the same language as this one. The kingdom of heaven is compared to. And then something happens. And then we get a comparison. A comparison. A comparison. Simile, metaphor. Things that are, I believe, help us to look at something in a different way, right? Or in a larger sense, or in a smaller sense, whatever, but differently. It is a comparison. The kingdom of heaven is like. Okay, so, like what? So who's the king in this parable?
God.
God is the king. Wow, you said that really quickly. Did you read this parable before?
I know.
Did you hear this before? You sneak. Okay, so God is the king. And the wedding banquet is what?
The call.
It is the what?
The call. Come unto me.
Come unto me, all ye that travail and are heavy laden. Okay, that's good, because that also comes out of Matthew. Good, excellent. What is the wedding banquet? It's the kingdom of heaven. It's a relationship with God. Okay, let's go with that. Okay, so now, who are the slaves? Us? No. That's a good guess, though. I know how hard you work. You're a mother. You have 4 boys. 3 relatives. And you can tell Mark I said that. Who are the slaves?
The prophets.
The prophets, thank you. The prophets. And so what happened to the prophets? They went out and they said, what happened to them? The first set of prophets were ignored. Okay. Then the second set of prophets, what happened to them? They were mistreated and killed. Okay. So, all right. Then the king was enraged. He sent his troops. Who were the troops? Oh, come on, you know this. Who are the troops? Who killed? That went out and destroyed the murderers. And, here's a clue. Burned their city. Those were the Romans. The troops were the Romans. They were the ones that destroyed the temple. They destroyed the city. Are you having fun yet? Are you having fun yet? We're getting there. Hold on. Okay, so then he said to his other slaves, the wedding is ready, and then he sent out and he brought anyone in the streets in. Okay, this sounds really wonderful. This is where I think we're all really good until we get to this point where he happens to go in and he notices there's a person there without a wedding robe. And he says to the person, friend, called him a friend, so the king, who is representing God, calls this person the friend. How'd you get in here without a wedding robe? And this is where the question of theodicy comes in. This is where we question the judgment of, or the justice of God, right? Because how did he know he was supposed to have a wedding robe? He was just dragged in off the street. Right? And he was speechless. And so God had his slaves bind him up, throw him out to the outer darkness where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth before many are chosen. What? No, that's upside down, isn't it? Many are called, but few are chosen. You know what? Part of the problem with my reading of this scripture is that I do all this wonderful, this wonderful Jim thing where I go, okay, the king is God and the slaves are the prophets. This was a description of how after the year 70 the Romans had destroyed the city of Jerusalem and burned the temple down, and the slaves are but I forget. See, I turn off that mechanism when I come to this because all of a sudden I'm in the real world. And I stop thinking about what does this mean? What is the symbolism of a wedding garment? What is the symbolism of the wedding garment? What does the garment stand for? We talk about who was the king, we talk about who was the soldier, we talk about who were the slaves, we talk about what the wedding feast is, but what is the wedding garment?
We put on the love of God and thankfulness, and we go into the feast.
We wear something, or we have something on that demonstrates something to the world. The wedding feast. That's absolutely correct. And that's one of the descriptions of it. So everybody that's invited to the wedding feast. Now, we can also be, see, that's the trouble with parables. We can go in and out a little bit. But here's the guy who's not wearing the garment. And so God, who is king, who is sovereign, all those words, throws in, throws out. There's kind of a risky thing going on here, right? Okay, now let's I'm going to move over and I'm going to change the subject a little bit. Suppose I said to you that I love you. Suppose I said that to you. And then, how would I demonstrate that to you? What are some of the ways that I would demonstrate that to you?
By your actions.
By my actions. Okay. So suppose, for instance, that I said that I love God. How would you know that? Well, you told me, Jim. You told me you love God. Great.
The way you your actions,
I
deeds.
think, yeah.
My actions and deeds. Okay. So what I say is not always represented necessarily by what I do. But if I have something that I really believe, if I have a relationship that I really trust, then what's going to happen? My behavior will demonstrate that. Is that right or not? Help me.
I
Help me
believe
out.
that.
Okay. So if someone that I love is unwell, then what would a loving person do? A loving person would, I love you, but I really need to go somewhere. I love you, but I love you. I know that you're dying, but I've got vacation. I've got 3 weeks of vacation coming, and I'm going to take those 3 weeks of vacation. I love you, though. There's another expression that kind of sounds like that. We love you. We love you. What's your kid's name again? Wow. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. Get out of my way. whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence. Suppose, for instance, that I wanted to be a part of the Christian church. What would you expect of me?
Baptism.
That's the rule. What would you expect of me?
Charity.
You said it earlier, Sharp. You put on something. You put on what? You put on, it's not just a white robe that you put on, or a white chrism gown that you put on. You put on something. You put on a wedding robe. And the wedding robe is a demonstration of who you love and how much you love and how you do this loving. That's what the wedding robe is about. That's what it's about. And for some reason or another in Matthew's Gospel, we have an individual who everyone was told, you are coming into the realm where the king is. You are coming into the wedding. And here's a person who just couldn't be bothered. Who said, I will come, but then did not demonstrate to anyone by his behavior about the relationship. And in this is an implicit, there's an implicit understanding that if you don't want to play, if the way you live your life is not real, and you're not demonstrating to God and to each other here the meaning of your faith, then you're outside. Then you're not in, you're out. You're not in, you're out. There's a judgment here that Matthew talks about. I see in you, I see in all of you, I see in all of there. No one here is not wearing a wedding robe today. No one here. There are occasions when maybe you slip it off. There are times when I yank my plastic out of my shirt. But that does not change the reality of the expectation that God has about our relationship. If I am committed to being married to Stephanie, my behavior will demonstrate that. If I am committed to being faithful to God, my behavior will demonstrate that. And that's what it's all about. Some days it's easier than others.
So in the traffic, you can look at a driver and say, idiot, with a big smile on your face.
And I will have taken off regardless of the smile. The statement was, or the question was, so in traffic, if somebody cuts you off, you can smile sweetly and say, idiot. The reality is that in order to do that, I will have had to slip off my wedding robe.
I was talking about me. Yeah.
Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise,